Hey, my name's Stephen Bowles, and welcome to another 10-Minute Tuesday here at Shoflo. Excited. Today's topic's actually pretty cool. It's what is a teleprompter? All right, so teleprompter, you might have heard it. If you're in the production industry, of course you've heard it. If you're not, you might be like, I think I've heard that before. So basically, the teleprompter is the thing that for presenters or speakers who maybe aren't feeling as confident and just kind of winging it when you're up there on the stage or whatever in front of the camera, that's a perfect use case for a teleprompter. It's basically putting the script that you're going to be saying right in front of the presenter or the speaker in any sort of live environment so they can know what to say, be guided, and kind of have a little bit of a plan as they're going. So to kind of talk about teleprompter, let's talk about the different types of people who might be using the teleprompter. So in general, anyone in live events, right? You're going to be talking about live sports. It could be, a coach, maybe doing an interview at the end, or maybe a player, or certainly any sort of DJs, things like that. Anything in the live corporate event space, very common to see teleprompters there, where CEOs up on the stage. And then, of course, news. I mean, that's really where this stuff came from. The idea that a news anchor is talking directly into a camera and reading from a teleprompter. You've probably seen it before in movies or something like that. So those are the general kind of use cases for it. Another newer one that's happening a lot is actually live, sort of like corporate video pre-records, where you might be needing to pre-record your presentation for your all staff or whatever it might be, and you want to just really get your message right. Another great example for using a teleprompting system. So, okay, to kind of understand a little bit more, let's talk about the different rigs you can have with teleprompters. There's generally 3 rigs. The first one is really the in-camera rig, right? That's going to be that broadcast news type setup where someone's looking directly into a lens, and at that point, there's actually a teleprompter where you can essentially fake it like you're talking to the audience, but you're actually reading the teleprompter live. If you actually look at our setup here right now, I'm actually looking directly into a camera, and it's got the camera teleprompter rig set up. So you can kind of see it's actually a monitor right here, and then there's a 45-degree sort of piece of glass, and it's reflecting whatever is put onto that monitor. And so, of course, the teleprompting software outputs directly and reflected through that. And so as I'm looking directly at you, it looks as if I'm looking at the audience, but actually I'm reading the script. So it's a good old classic one. News really brought this around. Another rig you're going to often see out there is going to be the downstage monitor rig. So the downstage monitor rig, that's going to be kind of like the live event space where there's a corporate CEO or VP, whatever it is. He's in a ballroom. He's looking out over the audience. And right there at the base of the steps, you're going to see these giant 50-inch monitors, and that's going to have the teleprompter on there, right? That could also be speaker notes, which is a little bit more of like just bullet points to kind of guide you. But the general idea there is as the presenter is on the stage and they're walking back and forth and they're looking left and looking right, they're able to glance down and see what's going on in those downstage monitors. The last one is what we call presidentials. So presidentials are actually, I mean, they got their name because literally presidents use them all the time. Imagine Biden or anyone else who's a president, it might actually want to actually be doing their State of the Union address. They're almost always reading from a teleprompter presidential rig. So what does it look like? So the presidential rig is basically a monitor that's on the floor with a pole that comes up vertically, and at the very, very top of that pole, there's a 45-degree sort of piece of glass. And the way it works is actually a little bit of a trick, but that piece of glass is reflecting what's on the monitor there on the ground. So from the audience's perspective, and typically it's more for at-home audiences, when they're basically watching this president or whoever that politician is looking out over the crowds, what's actually happening is the president's looking through the glass and reading the script. But from the audience's perspective, it just looks like he's looking off into the vistas. So those are your main 3 types of teleprompter rigs. Next, I want to talk about just like the software and the types of software that you could use for generating and basically creating a teleprompting system setup. So the main ones out there, broadcast grade stuff is going to be like AutoCue. There's other ones like Prompt Dog. You can also do cheap free ones online. I wouldn't recommend those in a live production environment, but it's good for kind of learning and practicing and stuff. We'll demo here today actually Shoflo's Prompter. We have a suite of tools, one of which is a teleprompting software. And it's really going to accomplish for us in terms of really talking what the basics are that you can expect to see inside of any teleprompting system. Okay, cool. So when you're in a teleprompting software, you're going to see the script, and that's really it. And in terms of being able to make edits, you can really just go into edit mode, and instead of saying start the day, you could say end the day, whatever that might be. You can change the color of something. And as soon as you go out of edit mode, that's going to save. And so whatever you're using here, right, whatever you're looking at here as the operator, generally speaking, there's a secondary output, and that's what's going to the live monitor. So if you look at my setup again here, we've got my operator view where I'm actually going to come in here and I'm going to be making changes. And then you've got up here is my secondary output. And so if I scroll up or down, you can see it's going to be adjusting that up here at the monitor. The biggest difference is the operator view is going to be able to go in and out of edit mode, have a lot of more settings, whereas the sort of the presentation view or the monitor view is actually just for whoever the presenter is or the speaker is to read from there live. Cool. So that's a little bit about that setup. In terms of the actual software, what you'll also see is a very standard feature is the ability to control your text size, right? So I can take it really large if I wanted to. The reason you would want to do that is honestly just because different presenters have different comfortabilities, right? Some presenters might want to see more text, larger text and less of it on the screen so that they really feel confident that they won't like lose sight and can very easily read it as you go. Other presenters like myself, actually, I prefer more of the text on the screen so that I can actually kind of get a little bit more of a bearing on where I am relative to what's coming next. And so that's going to be your text size here. Also, your line heights will help you control that. Other settings like maybe just forcing everything to bold or to all caps. These are all some really standard features you're going to see in teleprompting software that allows you to kind of control the presentation of what things look like. The other one I want to mention is formatting of colors. It's a really, really important part of teleprompting. And if you're a prompter operator, it's a really important way that you communicate messages to the presenter. So for example, right here, it says Stephen. So that's an identifier. Usually when you have black text with white text as the background, that's like a title or a header for a section that's not intended for the presenter to read themselves. So I could change that to John, or I could change that to Jane. And if you had two people presenting on the stage, it would help them understand this is John's segment and this is Jane's segment. Another example is actually, if you were to say toss to video, you can actually give technical cues in there. And using shortcuts in Shoflo Studio and Prompter, you can actually hit Command 1, and that's actually going to change it to the white text or 2 or 3, whatever you want to do. But so, for example, if this was to say toss to video, if I was reading this live, I would not read toss to video, obviously, but I would now know, okay, cool. Coming up is a toss to a video. It doesn't mean it leaves me. It might just be B-roll, but it's just a helpful cue for me visually to know what's going on along the way. The last thing I want to mention is really just kind of like how do you output from what I'm looking at here to your presenter. And really there's kind of two major ways you can do it. The first one, of course, is just take the output of your computer. So if you look at my setup again here, you can see this is my system. And if I just took an HDMI cable out and put it to a monitor in the same room, that would be one way to do it. The other would be to use what we call our remote prompter. It's actually a really cool and exciting piece of software and feature that's only available in Shoflo Studio. And so if you look here in the software, you can actually see, I can actually come up here to remote prompter. I can copy this link. I can then share this link with anyone I want to, and I can actually pull this up and look at it live. And so I'll kind of do a little side-by-side demonstration here. But you can kind of see if I pull that up, put them side by side. If I scroll up or down here, however I do that, that's actually generating this, it's just turning this browser page into a remote prompter monitor. So what's nice about that is I could actually share this over a text message or an email. I could do it over Zoom, and I could actually be the operator remotely and turn my presenter's screen into a prompter monitor. So a lot of really cool things from coming with our remote prompter feature that's in Shoflo Prompter. Well, in general, there's so many more things you can do with Prompter. The best way to kind of get plugged in and try it is to actually just try to play with these softwares yourself. Actually, with Shoflo, you can go over to shoflo.tv, start a free trial, 14 days of Prompter software, or you can use our Greater Studio software to produce amazing live broadcasts just like this one, or you can use our Rundown software to help plan and produce your show. So many tools. Head over to shoflo.tv/ whatever trial, I guess, and start your 14-day trial. Also, if you want to just get plugged in and be in the conversation more with people who are actually talking about teleprompting, producing for live events, all that kind of stuff, head over to backstage.shoflo.tv. There's a whole community of people there. You can that'll answer your questions, start joining the conversation, do whatever you want to do. Cool. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. That was another 10-minute Tuesday here from Shoflo. We'll be back next week with more awesome content. Till then, have a great week.